Welcome to Midweek Mobility with Movement RX. I'm Ray Regno, and we're here in my shoebox in San Diego CrossFit Stronghold. Today we're going to go over the differences between the high bar and the low bar back squat. The high bar is one that's actually my favorite version because I'm more of an Olympic style weightlifter, but the low bar is important to understand because it's a really good option if you don't have the mobility requirements to do the high bar. Let's take a look at the differences. Same thing as we set up. I want to set my feet, I want to squeeze my butt, get nice and tight, belly tight, and then get underneath the bar. On the low bar, you notice that the bar is sitting on a shelf I've created with my shoulders. As I go down with the hip hinge, set my butt back, come down, get to about just below parallel, stand back out of the hole. One more time, hip hinge, get to the bottom, stand up out of the hole. Okay, so that's the low bar. The high bar. Coach Berger says that God gave you traps so that the bar can sit there, and this is where we put the bar. I set myself underneath, the bar is sitting on my traps, I have my elbows pointing down, I step back, get nice and tight, step back, and I come back out of the hole. A couple things that you'll see in the execution that are very different are that in the low bar back squat, here, you'll notice that the bar is going to stay over the middle of my foot here. But look at my torso angle. My torso angle is a lot more tilted forward. Got a little more forward inclination here. If I were to stand up to about here, now I take my hands off the bar, this looks more like a deadlift position. Okay? Standing back up, if I set up the bar on my shoulders, coming down on the high bar back squat, you notice my chest is more upright. So this is a lot more reminiscent of the front squat here. Which one should you use? It really depends on your goals. Again, I'm more partial to the Olympic weightlifting style of lifting, so for me, the high bar back squat is a better movement to practice because it looks more like a squat that you're going to do in a clean and jerk. Couple common faults that you'll see on the low bar back squat. A lot of powerlifters really tighten that T-spine. What happens is when they're sitting in the bottom of the squat, they're not able to maintain relative extension of the T-spine, so they go down and then, this is a really sketchy position because the bar is where? In front of my feet. I've actually seen people release the bar over their head, which is not a happy thing to do. Okay, so that's one common fault. One way to solve that is you go down, you gotta make sure you keep that chest back up nice and tight, and then come back out of the hole. Okay? Also, if you're missing internal rotation or you have really tight pecs, it's gonna be really hard to hold this bar in your back. You'll end up in this position here, kind of contributing to that broken flex torso that we were talking about just a second ago. Okay? The high bar back squat, you have that same possibility to go overhead like that in the bottom, which is not a happy thing to do. But more likely what you'll see is that some people will load with their knees going forward, which isn't loading their hips like they should. But for a lot of people, the mobility problem comes in here. If you notice this angle between my ankle and my knee, I've got a lot of what we call dorsiflexion. I have one lifter in particular where when she squats, she's like this. There's no mobility in the ankle there. So, while I am partial to the high bar back squat, a better option for her might be go to low bar. Because if you notice, as I low bar, I set my butt way back, and my shins stay relatively vertical. Right, so for her, this is probably a better option for her so she can work on going up and down and creating that leg strength that she needs, but still be able to maintain a good position in her squats. Okay, so that's just a quick little overview of the high bar versus low bar back squat. Again, goals and uses really depends on what your goal is. If you're an Olympic style weightlifter, high bar all the way, all day, every day. If you might be just looking to move a lot of weight, the low bar use a little bit more posterior chain, which is good. You can move a lot more weight with the low bar back squat. It's also a lot more accessible to people who have limitations in mobility. Cool, so that's the high bar versus low bar. We'll see you next week.